recognise the continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I remind councillors and all those present that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public, so please be mindful of your actions and your comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in Council's archives. Please turn the mobile phones off or switch to silent. Filming and photography are not permitted in the meeting. Anybody observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. Apologies and remote attendance. I note that Councillor McQuaid and Councillor Neal have requested to attend this evening's meeting via audio-visual links due to illness. That's Councillor Neal also, and that a written apology has been received from Mayor McKenna and a verbal apology from Councillor Deputy Mayor Mooland. I have a motion that the committee approves the request by Councillor McQuaid and Councillor Neal to attend the Economic Development Committee meeting on the 4th of August 2026 at 5 p.m. by audio-visual link. And they are unable to attend in person due to illness. And 2, notes the apology from Mayor McKenna.
Excuse me, Chair. Chair, sorry, it's not due to illness, it's due to being out of the area for me.
So I'll just go through number 1 again, which approves the request by Councillor McQuaid and Councillor Neal to attend the Economic Development Committee meeting on the 4th of August 2026 at 5 p.m. by audio-visual link. Councillor McQuaid is unable to attend in person due to illness, and Councillor Neal is unable to attend being out of area. Correct? Take that as a yes. I'll move the motion. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor McGregor, seconder. Now put those motions. All those voting in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, disclosures of interest. I now ask all committee members to disclose any conflict of interest they may have in items in tonight's agenda. Firstly, myself, I confirm that I do not have any conflicts. Councillor Smith?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Councillor McQuaid?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Councillor Neal?
No conflicts to declare, Chair.
Councillor McGregor?
No conflict.
Under confirmation of previous minutes, we have a recommendation there that the committee confirms the minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on the 7th of July 2026 as read and a true record of the meeting. Do I have a mover?
I'm happy to move that way, Chair. I do have a question.
Okay, let's go first by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor McQuaid.
It's not specifically the minutes, but I know at the last meeting we did have a discussion about having meetings every second month, and I'm sure that was going to be part of the council meeting, but did that get forgotten or was that just
forgotten? We do have the September meeting locked in with some people. So
okay, all right.
We'll come back with that, but definitely the September meeting is on.
Yep.
And then we'll
go for
first after that.
it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all those in favour of that motion? Unanimous. Items resolved by exception. Pass that by. There's only a couple of items tonight. And now we come to item 2.1, Young Local Aboriginal Land Council Development Program. I'd now like to invite Daniel Jackson, Chair of Young Local Aboriginal Land Council, and Angus Witherby, Interim Chief Executive Officer, Duncan Young Local Aboriginal Land Council, to address the meeting. Thank you.
Very much appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chair, councillors, staff, to give you an idea of actually up to.
Sorry, we can't see online the speakers.
Okay, do you need me to relocate somewhere?
As long as you can hear you, you're right.
Can you hear Councillor Nick?
Shut the
Okay,
door.
that's fine.
No worries, thanks. So I appreciate the opportunity to run through with you the activities of Dark and Young, particularly in the land space, land rather than development per se. Starting point for us as an organisation is our community and business plan. And that really talks to how we as an organisation seek to further quality of life for our members, for other Aboriginal people on the Central Coast, and for the Central Coast more generally. Next slide, thanks. So as part of that, there's a central role about caring for country, which constitutes about 90% of our land holdings, which are now about 4,000 hectares. And to care for country, it's about how do we get the resources to look after the 90% of 4,000 hectares. We've got about 10% of our total estate, which is potentially development land. And that's covered by the Development Delivery Plan, which is our aspirations over the next 25 years in terms of potential development. So 31 sites in that plan, which has been endorsed by the Minister and has some statutory weight in terms of decision making. Next slide, thanks. When you look at those 31 sites, they're fairly well scattered across the Central Coast. Now, a bit difficult to tell at this scale, but as you can see, we've got everything from Mangrove Mountain, tourist area in the far west, to Bushells Ridge Industrial area in the north, and then further east, our major development opportunities at Lake Munmorah, Crangan Bay, as well as some other lands around. Now, not all of that identified development land is intended to be actually developed. Included within a number of those areas are areas which are offset lands and areas which we're currently looking at for stewardship programs with the state government. Next slide, please. So just to give you an example, we've got 4 sites at the moment that are under phase 2 investigations for long-term stewardship programs. We've got a quite substantial holding top left there, which is associated with our Lake Munmorah development, about half of which is rezoned at the moment. We've got Chain Valley Bay Road up the middle of that. And we're currently, as I said, at stage 2 of looking at those offset lands under stewardship. Nora Head, that's the next one on the top right. There's a very substantial parcel of land there that the board has resolved to move forward on stewardship investigations. And look at the development area that's left over. It's about 1/100th of that area for the Nora Head area. At the left, we've got our land at Reeve Street, Summersby. That's looking at 14 large lot residential developments with specified building envelopes, constituting about 1% of that total site, with the balance again being looked at as a stewardship area. Finally, I don't have quite up-to-date mapping because they haven't quite finished that for us, is some major holdings at Charmhaven. And there's actually no development potential available for us in Charmhaven, although there is a little bit just south of the link road there, which you can see is the purple area, which is existing industrial zoning. We've been working with the regulator on that and also identifying some other stewardship areas to the south of that. We're also in discussions with a commercial developer who's got a potential stewardship area next to our Charmhaven site about some integrated management. Next slide, thank you. So these are, and I won't go through them in a great deal of detail, the priority sites from the draft development delivery plan, which came in force in 2021 and then was ratified a year or 2 later. There's 700 lots at Lake Munmorah. There's the Wallara Motorway Link Road Industrial Subdivision. That's now part of the CCP, as is Lake Munmorah. Reeve Street, Summersby. We're expecting the rezoning to drop on that by the end of last financial year, but you know what things are like. Hopefully in a month or so. And then there's the 50 lots at Carry On Woodwar Road. And again, we're hoping to get that rezoning finished within a month or so. So next slide, please. This is the current master plan for the Lake Munmora development. Phase 1 is basically on the left-hand side of Chain Valley Road. And as part of phase 2, we're looking at the bottom right-hand side, the potential for a neighbourhood centre in accordance with the DCP. And we're still working through the collector roads under the Lake Munmora master plan with Council and with Transport for New South Wales. Then we can lock that down. On the right here, you've got the Woodwar Road Carry On. We've reduced the footprint by about 20% as compared to what was exhibited. And part of that's for improving the environmental outcomes, which we think we can achieve without a significant reduction in yield. Next slide, please. Next tranche, we've got land at Morris Place, Batto Bay. It's in a multi-use zoning. We have that one included in the CCSCP. We're doing some market testing for that later in the year. Industrial subdivision at Wiseman's Ferry Road, which was looked at for a highway service centre some years ago. And we've got to, again, now that's included in the CCSP, we can go forward and look at some possibilities there. It's in industrial zoning at the present. Bushells Ridge is the large one. Got about 300 hectares of zoned industrial land there. And we're working with other landholders and state agencies and council. We've had some good feedback from council on a master plan for that area, which also includes Spring Creek, south of Waiu Road, our land there, and the land being developed by Scape at the moment. So what we've been looking is to make sure that the policy framework and state at local levels supports the activation of that site. Built form value, Bushells Ridge, 2.5 billion, 15,000 jobs, enough industrial land supply for the Central Coast for at least the next 5 years. That's the big one. Finally, Bell Road, Mangrove Mountain, cultural tourism site. Next slide, please. So this is an idea of the Bushells Ridge Master Plan, and we're focusing on 4 main things: access, services, biodiversity, and also a combined approach to government, including, of course, Central Coast Council. So it's there was a placemaking exercise by the state government about 2 years ago. 31 people ran a big table for 3 days, achieved absolutely zero, unfortunately. So we have decided to give it a go as the lead agent, as Dark and Jung, to do some good old-fashioned master planning. Yes, I'm a town planning profession. Next slide, please. So next 5 to 10 years, we've got the Carrick Road site, which I'm sure you're aware of. We are intending to put a press release out quite soon regarding that site. But just for the information of this committee, it's not zoned, there's no development agreement in place, and we're not proposing to touch the wetlands. Just 3 statements of fact. For Undi or Peat Island, we're still negotiating on some land ownership issues there. Central Coast Council has done a brilliant job on assessing the DA for us. As soon as I can get a landholder to say they consent to it being lodged. That's $5 million first stage of a tourist development. And that's looking at Peat Island being a Port Arthur style experience. And we're pivoting the accommodation to the foreshore. And we're repurposing some of the existing buildings, actually built by inmates for a cafe restaurant. The existing admin building becomes a cultural centre. Lawson North. This grant came through about 4 weeks ago. It's on our development delivery plan and needs rezoning. One of the things that's come out of that is an initiative by Business New South Wales, who are looking at replicating the Gosford stakeholder group for the northern part of the LGA. That site smack in the middle of it, yes, we're involved. Let's get the master planning done right. Let's have multi-stakeholder engagement and make sure that we can deliver for the Central Coast on that one. Next slide, please. The concept plan for Peat Island. Over at the right-hand side in stage 2 is the existing plant and admin support buildings. That will be hopefully initially the first 40-unit motel. That's where we're looking at the accommodation component there. Next slide. 5 to 10 years, we've got land at North Summersby. Bay Village Road, Baddow Bay is currently being looked at for an Eleanor Duncan Aboriginal Family Centre. That's under claim. We don't have that in our ownership. We've negotiated successfully with council on the parking for the library. Thank you, folks. And that's also got some opportunities to work with Charter Hall and the balance of the site. So that one's actually ahead of schedule. So next stage doesn't start till 27. Wyrie Road, Doyleson, that's already happening in the Bushells Ridge. Again, we're ahead of schedule. And then Wilfred Barrett Drive, more ahead. We've got a couple of small areas which are covered by the CCSP. And again, we're fairly well down the track in terms of getting those sorted. Next slide, please. Bay Village Road, just to give you an idea. Eleanor Duncan's looking at the yellow area there. We've got the strip of land at the top right, which is looking at car parking for the council library, in addition to your other holding on that corner there. And the balance potentially in discussions with Charter Hall. It's already in a commercial zone. Left of the road, no plans at this point. Next slide, please. Other sites, we've got 7 zone small residential sites, and we're looking at assessing those for commencing DAs or CDCs next 12 months or so. Focus on youth housing with our Aunt Betty's development, hopefully getting interim occupation certificate in 2 weeks' time. That's 9-person aged persons unit at Lake Haven. We're also working through a number of telecommunications sites we've got, getting better commercial lease terms, getting leases in place where we don't have them. We're also dealing, as council I'm sure has its own issues, what I've called informal use of land. We're trying to regularise those situations. Next slide, please. So that's my presentation and happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions, anybody? Councillor Smith.
Ask about the spring break area that you referred
Yes.
to. So what kind of, can you just talk about that? And the reason I ask is my recollection of the former Wyong Council and a lot of natural resource managers saying that that Spring Creek catchment was critical for the health of Tuggerah Lakes, almost that, you know, there should be limited development in that catchment. Is that, so are you proposing development in that catchment?
We're proposing limited development, yes. At the moment, it sits in the urban development program as potential residential brackets constrained, close brackets. And part of it is to look from a biodiversity point of view at how we can look at, between us and Scape, how that biodiversity works, particularly through the riparian areas and up into the Bushells Ridge industrial area. There's a couple of slivers of C2 there, but I'm seeing 15, 20% of that site at least going for riparian corridor. So we're trying to establish some of those fundamental principles, and there's a little bit of land that's being picked up with the CCSCP eastern end. But at this stage, it's a long way to go before we determine where the development footprints might look like in that eastern area. Really going to be driven by servicing, access and biodiversity as the 3 top.
So what area within that catchment are you thinking will be developed, I guess? Do you have a figure?
Too early to put a hectare number on it, largely because we need to absolutely address the biodiversity aspects.
So just flagging, I'm not just talking about the biodiversity, I'm talking about the runoff into Tuggerah Lakes.
Yeah.
It's been flagged as a really critical
Yeah.
impact on potential impact on Tuggerah Lakes. But anyway, just flagging.
So our view at the moment is that we need to go well beyond the riparian guidelines in terms of setbacks. And part of that is also to make sure that whatever occurs in those catchments manages not only quality but water quantity.
Yeah.
Both those things.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can say one thing from our board is we have a very, very strong push in regards to environmental issues as well. A lot of us on the board are very, very aware of that type of stuff. So when we won't develop anything if there is going to be a major environmental impact. So I can tell you that from our board.
For instance, at Reeve Street, we're looking at specified building envelopes. Although the BCAR looks at what happens if we clear the lot, we're looking at specified building envelopes, about 1,500 to 2,000 square metres for either 5 hectare site, permeability across the landscape. and also particularly in that case, the runoff quality for the upland wetlands maintenance.
Now, look, I do feel for you guys because you have land that is highly constrained. Like Reeve Street, I thought was really high bushfire risk area. I can recall
Another challenge up there.
council dealing with, well, not allowing development because of the high bushfire risk. So I understand that you guys have challenges.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, councillor Neil.
Yes, so my question was in relation to the carry-on site.
Yes.
As I'm sure you're aware, that matter has been quite controversial.
Yes.
Though I'm a bit concerned that some of the information circulated is not completely accurate. Firstly, obviously I saw the little mud map, but could we be provided with the exact location of that development? Because I'm not absolutely clear in my mind. I think there's some confusion between some other sites that are possibly subject to claim. So firstly, and secondly, has there been any consultation with the community about that particular subdivision?
To answer your first question, yes, we can certainly provide council through for attachment with the minutes with more detailed information about that.
Yep, thank you.
Secondly, the layout is purely for the purposes of considering whether or not to rezone the land. That's before the regional planning panel. If they resolve, and we believe we've satisfied their information requests now, if they resolve to progress that rezoning, then we start a whole separate process associated with any subsequent development of that land. So there's no what I call design as such. It's an indicative map which is designed to look at the potential yield, which will be capped at 50 dwellings, how that might look.
And just to answer,
sorry. Go on.
Yeah, there was community consultation done on it about 3 or 4 years ago. Hence the reason why we did make some changes in regards to that development and pushed it.
It's about 5 submissions from memory. And as I mentioned, we reduced the total development footprint by over 20%, partly in response to those submissions.
And what are the size of the draft lots, roughly, on average?
Minimum lot size at the moment, we are looking around about 500. Originally exhibited at 550, but then as I say, we're looking at 20% reduction in overall urban footprint. 500, 10% reduction in lot size allows us to maintain approximate yield. Our desire to do that is driven by that if we can manage uplift in densities, that reduces the take of greenfield sites.
Yeah, I understand.
Lake Bunmora, we've got some R3 there as well as standard residential. I'd like to see 3 to 4 story around the neighbourhood centre. Again, that will take the heat off in terms of the pressure for further greenfield releases. The other thing we're looking at with all our land is long-term lease. We don't want to sell any more unless we absolutely have to. That gives us a control over how those lands are managed into the future. We see that's quite an important element of caring for country.
Okay.
Councillor McQuaid.
Yeah, thank you. I missed your name at the start there. Was it Angus or Daniel?
I'm Daniel.
I'm Daniel. Yeah. Angus. It's nice to meet you, mate. Well, you answered my first question, which is about the reduction. I missed the percentage, so it's 20%. The second one was a follow-up. Are we able to get a follow-up written report on this presentation you've done, or be made available to us?
Yeah, I'd expect the presentation would be provided, and
Yes.
the audio record of the meeting I understand as well.
Yeah, awesome. And on your website, the one you did tonight, does that relate to the current development delivery plan on the website? It's the latest one I can find is 2022.
That's right. It's due for renewal at the moment. We've kicked that process off. Most of it's likely to be driven by 2 things. Firstly, the CCSCP and lands which have been incorporated within that process. Certainly, we're advocating for all land within the Central Coast to be under the CCSCP process. And the second element is the timing. Whereas I said, we've got a fair bite into our next 5-year program already, even though we haven't finished quite our first 5 years. So they're the 2 main things that we're looking to review in the DDP. I'm not seeing significant chance of much additional land coming onto it because it already includes a number of the sites we had under claim back then.
Thanks, Angus. Thanks, Daniel.
Any,
Sorry,
Councillor
just
Smith.
a follow. Yeah, just it's been raised that there is a lot of community angst about some of the proposals.
Yes.
Has Duck and Young ever engaged with either the state or council about looking at land swaps where there might be development potential on land that does not have that significant biodiversity values? Is that ever something discussed or considered?
The answer is yes.
Yes.
And the discussions have commenced with Central Coast Council, with Chris Barrett, and we have commenced some discussion around some of those possibilities.
Okay. All right. Well, I think
Yet
that's
to get to the
encouraging.
stage of
Solve all the problems.
proposal, but there's an agreement to move forward on just in that space.
Thank you.
And one thing that I can say is any development that we do, we have the environmental impact at heart as well. So like as you're probably aware with some of the issues that's happening with Carrick Road. So in regards to the wetlands and stuff like that there, we actually want to do that development to actually protect those wetlands. We don't want to destroy them. We want them there for everyone. And because at the moment it is classed as a recreational area. So anybody can tread through there and do whatever they want through there and they could actually destroy those wetlands.
So am I right that you guys only own a portion of that
Yes.
land?
We own
Yeah.
a larger portion.
Yeah.
We're looking at developing about 20% of it.
Yeah.
And there's the other lands we've got up the creek as well. We're
Yeah.
seeking to bring into an integrated management once we get them into the C2 zoning. And that'll be the job of our new Land and Sea Rangers program, be the management of those lands moving forward, particularly recognising, we've had often artificial barriers between land and sea, wetlands sit in the middle. That's one of the justifications for Land and Sea Rangers.
All right, thank you.
Right, thank you. Any other questions?
Just
Councillor Castle?
Question. Yeah, through you, Chair. Just might be a smaller thing, but you mentioned Morris Place, Batteau Bay, and I think you mentioned it's more of a commercial sort of space. I'm just trying to get my head around exactly where that is at Batteau Bay and what the plans potentially are for that.
Next to the ambulance station.
I know exactly where you mean.
And it's got that
I knew the name of it. I've just put
off.
So it's near where the ambulance station.
That's next door.
Pretty much right next door.
Yeah,
You've got Morris Place, then I think you've got commercial
yeah, there's
the other side. Quite, yeah.
Right.
So we do hope to go out to market that one later in the year.
Right.
That's another one we wouldn't sell. We'd be looking at ground rent, long-term income streams, and also the additional control over the use of the land that happens. Once it's sold, we don't have any more influence
Yeah,
on
that's
it.
right.
Covenants, do all you like. DA. So,
Yeah.
so it's about maintaining, as Daniel was saying, the ability to make sure that what food on that land is consistent with our environmental, also our ethical values.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? We're done. Thank you very much, Angus. Thank
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Councillors.
Appreciate it.
For coming.
We will see you out. Thank you.
If we move on to item 2.2, short-term and Airbnb accommodation. I invite Luke Nichols, Director of Environment and Planning, to speak to the report.
Shannon's doing it.
And invite Shannon into.
The last council meeting, participation that was put up that would be considered tonight. So we prepared a report that some of the conservation and right. So I will prepare the report and read questions or further information that you might like. I can answer some questions.
My comment is it's a very complex area for everyone in the state, I think. I would suspect that the state government's going to do something about it in not too distant future, I would have thought. My question is about the use of a house as a business when no one's actually living there as their residence. And I'm not quite sure if you can answer this. Is there any effect on the rate that is associated with that location, whether it's a residential rate or a business rate?
Yeah, I sought some advice actually from our rates team, and it's generally based on the predominant categories. So most of them, I would say, are residential. As a business, they're approved as a dwelling. And because they're often exempt development too, there's no change in the use of the building. So, and I think some of them too, people they're not always vacant. Sometimes people are still living in them and they just put them on Airbnb for, if there's a big event in their house or for part of the year. So generally the rating is the residential.
Residential rate.
It's approved as, yeah.
And other councils have moved down to, I think it's 90 days per year. You know of any other move by the state government to change that, considering the housing shortage, especially in the rental accommodation?
No, the Department of Planning was looking at just generally the impact on housing supply a couple of years ago. They did do a review of the short-term rental provisions, but as yet that hasn't been finalised. So still on their radar, but it is really difficult. And some councils too that have put in through a planning proposal process to apply caps, not all of them have actually been approved for the Department of Planning either. So it's very much on a case-by-case basis. And I think from the report it says that too, that some of the stats we've looked at, the vacancy rate is actually very high. So across some of them too, which I found that surprising too. I thought that actually they'd be occupied more often. So it's hard to know the cap, whether that or not. Yeah, but there's some, I think there was an example in there of Waverley and some of the other, like in Sydney and then a couple of the other states, we're looking at trying to get a levy imposed on them as well, to whether or not that also would provide some incentive to have them as long-term rental or permanent housing, but none of those as yet, to our knowledge.
Two questions online.
Online, I've got Councillor McQuaid.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My question just relates to the number that's in the report, 3,000 properties that have been identified. How do we know if there's any in there that are duplicated across Airbnb and stays?
I guess most of them probably are duplicated. I guess we do get a list of when they're registered here, fair trading. So we do some of that, and then some other economic advice and data that we also collect. To the best of our knowledge, that's all of them, but there is potential that twice or some of them have been duplicated.
Councillor Neal, you did have your hand up.
Yes, I do. Thank you. The essence of the report seems to suggest that even if we imposed a limit on the number of days that the properties were available for short-term rental, that it would have little impact, because in practical effect, the occupation is generally low in any case. Is that the essence of what the message is in the report?
Yes, that's correct.
How far would it have to be reduced to have any impact? How many days? Have
Not
you
sure.
made that calculation?
No, we haven't done that calculation, and I'm not entirely sure that we get support from the Department of Planning to have it less than 90 days. I think Byron's maybe 60, but there's not very many cases across New South Wales where requests from councils, I guess, for really short, a very small number of days have been supported. But yeah, we don't have the figures on that.
Could obviously the question is whether the New South Wales government support is a secondary question. Could we please do the calculation of how low it would have to be to have any impact? Not necessarily now, you can take that on notice.
Yeah, we'll take that on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Can I just the question about the number of days? I've actually never quite understood what the impact of that is. That just to make it financially unviable for the owner, because it doesn't mean that anybody's going to permanently rent it for the other days, does it? Yeah.
No, I think it's a little bit of both. One, amenity for surrounding tenants and next door neighbours and things too. So you might not have people living there or different people in every single week, but then try and find that balance. between maybe longer term rentals.
Okay. And my second question, so you've mentioned Waverley, and I think you just mentioned City of Sydney. So City of Sydney was getting a lot of media just a couple of weeks ago about what they were doing. Do you know what it was that it's a levy that you raised, or
Yeah,
I talked to that a little bit?
some of the councils are looking at seeing whether there's an opportunity to have a levy.
So that is if a homeowner wanted to use their property or a property as short-term, then they would pay an additional levy.
Pay into a levy. Some of the Sydney councils have suggested that then that may go back to the state government to look at providing social and affordable housing as a mechanism to fund that development. But I think the issues at the moment too is that it's exempt development by council, so we don't have any control over car parking or really any over the planning controls. We can't look at that. And so, yeah, I guess too, why would they have to? It's how that mechanism would work. Like ideally, I guess it would have to be maybe when it's registered with their trading, they might pay a levy that way. But then, yeah, I guess it's just tying it back to areas that may need it or how that actually works in principle. But I think it's probably a question for the state government. But yeah, as we understand, nothing proposed yet.
Any other questions?
Just
Councillor
one,
Parsons?
I suppose, but I don't know that it's answerable. Because what we don't know, of course, I presume, is that somebody may be, renting out their Airbnb or full stays for, I don't know, not a great number of weekends or weeks or whatever during the year. But what we don't necessarily know is whether the people who own some of those properties are actually doing that quite deliberately for a couple of reasons. Obviously, could be tax reasons, all sorts of other things, but also they may be using themselves for themselves and family, whatever, during the other sort of periods where they're not using it for an Airbnb. So we just don't really quite know exactly what it really looks like, do we? Or we don't, do we?
Not really, and it's only picking up on registered short-term rental accommodation properties. So if people have got family holiday houses or other things like that, that's not picking up.
No, that's right.
Either.
Yeah.
It is a big number though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's when I read that, I just went, wow. When we're, in a housing and accommodation and homes, it's like, seriously?
And then, it's hard to know too. Like people may have registered, but they may have only rented their place out once and they live in it the rest of the time too. Like it's quite hard because it's not, council doesn't maintain the register.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to.
I'm not quite sure if there's a correlation, but what about the number of properties available for long-term rental as opposed to 3,000 places for short-term rental? Because there's a very, very small amount of properties available for long-term rental on the coast. Is there any correlation at all, especially in the Terrigal, Avoca, and Long areas, the short stays?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. Let me take that on notice and have a look at it. We haven't looked into that.
Okay. Any other questions? No, thank you.
Chair, I would just ask, I'd like to see this issue continue to be explored. I don't have a specific answer to recommend, but I don't know how the committee feels about that, is to get perhaps a more detailed options paper and what the mechanisms might be, or rather than just sort of close it off here. An opportunity to
You may have noticed, Councillor Smith, that I have asked for the calculation on how far we'd have to reduce it to have an impact. For me, that was sort of the opening position as to determine whether there's any advantage in pursuing it.
So are you putting forward a motion, Councillor Neal?
No, I've asked the staff and they were going to provide that information. I was going to make a decision about the next step once I receive that.
Well, I would just comment that's fine, but if the motion goes through as is, then this issue becomes basically a dead issue and you'd have to submit a nom to ordinary council meeting to pick it up again.
I think if you want another addendum or something like that, asking for it to come back in another meeting or a couple of meetings, I'd be happy to second something like that.
Yeah.
For a further report on it, if that's what you want to do. I don't see an issue with that.
There's a lot of questions, isn't there? There's a lot left,
It's a very complex area.
isn't it?
Very.
Isn't it? So on that, it would be helpful if we could keep kind of pursuing it to have some of those questions answered.
Can I offer some wording for a possible amendment of this? Sorry, Councillor Castles, they just cut out.
Go, Councillor McQuaid.
I was just going to suggest council seek the committee seek a detailed database report on options and impact that separate housing, tourism, amenity and compliance issues, and identifies the likely net effect on each available and comes back to when everyone's happy.
And I think it also needs to include the state government. I mean, I guess that would, but I guess the question is, does that provide staff with some guidance about bringing back further?
You're going to need to agree to that.
We need to slow down and just
Yeah,
grab the.
that's a huge report.
Really,
I just think it's the only way. Everything this, like, I mean, this meeting now has identified so many issues and gaps.
So I think everyone, or maybe the majority of people, are happy for a further report, and then it'd be around the trends of what's happening at the state level or with other councils, and then what the options are for us as a council to do anything, if at all. And this is that land enough to get support.
And I refer to Director Nichols to get some guidance.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what we can do is that receives and notes information with report, and then provides another report further investigating the matter that include whether we can find additional information. So I'm not sure what we can commit to with resourcing wise, but definitely what we can commit to is looking into it further and providing a more detailed report to councillors.
And maybe just flagging that City of Sydney levy stuff that seemed to be, I mean, City of Sydney has a lot of weight, probably more weight than we do, but they seem to be very proactive. Obviously different context, but.
Councillor McQuaid, I think we've got there, provides another report to investigate the matter. Didn't go into the detail you had, but
Well, I actually like. I think we do need some sort of detail, not just an open-ended report, like the director suggested. I like Councillor McGregor's 3 points that he brought up. We've got to make it meaningful.
That include, what were the 3 points?
So it was about getting an update on what other councils are doing or what the state government's doing in the space.
Yeah, the trends, the options.
Any options for action?
not so fast, guys, not so fast. Wait a minute.
I think that's what I said. Or
Includes update on council trends and state government
decisions or
decisions.
something like that.
Anything else there?
And the second point was around and getting options for actions, if any, or for further actions, if any.
Yeah, and somehow I would like to get appropriate, accurate data. You know, because what's that? 3,166, and it's already been confirmed that they probably duplications in there. I mean, I'm not going to commit to any cap or levy, you know, based off that evidence. I think we need to have real data that's meaningful, and then go into what Councillor McGregor said.
I think one of the issues is that we don't hold those data sets.
Yeah, we'll get them. Fair trading.
Yeah. The only legal bit of data is what fair trading has, and that's if somebody admits that they're doing an Airbnb.
Councillors, just remember you don't have the ability to put a levy. It does. So the state may be able to work out how to do it, but we don't have the ability to do that. Councils are talking about they'd love to, but they've been talking about that for years.
Yeah.
But I mean, councillor, if you're comfortable with the idea, we can we will find out what additional detailed information there is. We can do that without the resolution.
Thank you. So as it sits there at the moment, everyone happy with number 2? Yes.
Yeah, that's the second.
Deb, can we put a reasonable time? Just so that we know when to expect.
This financial year would work for me.
They are very busy. Could we say
What about December?
February? I was going to say.
February, so.
February. Oh, I'm happy with February.
December would be fine. Give it to you as a Christmas present.
Happy to work in
I
January.
heard you say that. Okay, to the December Economic Development Committee meeting. Okay, so Councillor McQuaid did a lot of talking there. So you're moving that, Councillor McQuaid, seconded by
Yeah, I'll
Councillor.
move it.
Before we go any further, Councillor.
Is there going to be an Economic Development Committee meeting in December?
Yes.
You were saying about September. You said there's definitely one down September.
September, November, December. Okay, we right?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour of the motion on the green, unanimous, thank you. Okay, over to item 2.3, proposed new economic insights reporting and dashboard layout. I invite Sue Lettingham to discuss. You're already online.
We're just getting the presentation up. Councillors, you will recall this was an action out of the economic development strategy. So this is the first draft of a proposed insights reporting dashboard. Discussion as to what could be included or perhaps could be considered if we can get access to the data. So thank you. Like we said, the Economic Development Strategy and Regional Economy Action Plan, we've been working to establish some of those baseline data to help us measure the success of the strategy and the actions that we have proposed in that plan, both the annual plan and the overarching strategy over 4 years. We've trying at this point, we've been spending some time getting accurate and correct and accessible data that helps us to measure against the outcomes that we have set in the economic development strategy around people, place and partnerships. And partnerships we've actually would like to call economy, because a lot of partners are involved in that economy and the delivery of those action plans. And so you'll see in the action plan that there's a lot of indicators that talk about effectiveness of a program or how many were delivered. What we want to present to you today is an high-level indicators with data that we can source either through open source opportunities through open source, or we've already got that data source because we've paid for it as part of the annual budget for economic development. And we've been collecting that over and putting that information previously on our economic development database that sits currently on the website. So just the next slide. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here.
He's muted. That's good.
Sorry, me.
Just to click it, is that better?
So what we're proposing to do is, no, it's not that one. Go back the other way. Going back, sorry, we're just having a few technical issues. Slides, the next one more slide back. There's a very significant delay. Yeah, you see that. Okay, quarterly reporting. So what we're proposing is that we bring to the committee a quarterly report that covers the trends that you can see as listed here on the slide, we're looking at consumer prices, employment, spending data, building approvals, housing costs, and visitation data. This is like a quarterly report that would come to council. We collect this data, quite regularly, but because they're third-party sources, they're not always, coming in at the same time. They come in at different times. I'll give you an example. For example, the census data every 5 years is updated. Crime data can come in annually. Unemployment data comes in every month. So there's all those different sources come at different times. So what we've developed, and we're going to take you into the dashboard so that you can have a look at it, is it will be monthly reporting, but we would bring that back to the committee on a quarterly basis for further discussion and more detailed analysis.
So what Sue's basically saying is the alignment between the collection of the data won't line up for them to come to the monthly.
That's right.
So we'll only be able to align them quarterly basis.
Yeah.
But you can log on to the dashboard at any time
And see this.
get real-time data.
So you can see when you look at the screen here, this is a quarterly report that is available online and able to be shared by councillors who have access, when councillors have access to it, and staff. The idea here is that we would provide an overview, and I'll just click to the next page of this report, and it's very, very slow, but we'll bear with us. And if you could just do me a favour, can you open that up a bit more broader? There's a little slide down the bottom. Allows you to bring it back just there. Thank you. We would have an overview that sits at the very, very beginning of that quarterly report. You can see that the data, it will tell you the date of the data or when that data was last updated. So what you're looking at here at the moment is June figures, but not for all of them. You can see others maybe, quarter two information, because that's the time frame that information comes in. So we haven't received we've received quarter two for this financial calendar year, but not information so that it would line up from a monthly visit perspective, because that information only comes to us quarterly. Financial year for visitors and so on, we tend to find with Tourism Research Australia, their information comes in quarterly, but it's not always consistent. So again, we will always put what financial year order in terms of the time frame of that data when it comes in. We're having indicators here that show whether there's been a drop or in spend or an increase in perhaps employment. But what you see here, I'm now going to take you to the next page, which then goes into the detail. And this is what I mean by you'll be able to search by the month. So right now you're seeing June up the very top there. You can click on that and it can take you to April, May, June, July, all the other months previous to that. Gives you an overview of what we're hearing or what we're seeing from the CPI index in terms of what does that mean. And it talks to you about, this is primarily based in Sydney because we can't get CPI in regional area. We can get, it's just very challenging for us, but that's what you're seeing in terms of this presentation. It gives you that information as an overview. And if you just click up the top in that little drop down box, under June, then click on it and then look at, say, April's figures, and that your online database would then change and update. So this is a big overview. When you look at it on your screen on your computer, it's much easier to see, and you can see all of those detailed numbers. But I wanted to show you how broadly that looks. If you go to, say, employment, again, the same challenge we'll have is not always is that data consistent and constant in terms of its time frame and when it's given to us, but we would have employed residents, unemployment rate, and then we would look at online job advertisements and see the difference in comparison in terms of the percentage change from the previous month. The next one is spending data. I'm just going through this very quickly. You can see the data sources down the bottom. The next one would be spending data. This is what we're proposing in terms of this quarterly report. Spend within the LGA, spend by category, change in spend over time, particularly around nighttime spend and daytime spend and spend over weekends, which breaks it into areas across the region, and you can see that visually with a map. So that you clicked on the next month or the previous month, you'd see that change. And then we can start to do some analysis up the top in the report and talk about that spending data and what's changed from the previous month, what's changed from the previous quarter, depending on when those data sources have been updated. You click on building approvals. Again, this information is sourced from ABS, from Building Approvals and New South Wales Planning Portal, and the Grain Index, and that just gives you an idea of the value of the approvals that have happened. You can see again, this is Q2 2026. DA assessment dates we have only for May 2000 and 2026, because there's a small lag time. And this is just a prototype, just for you to see what's available and what we can access. We can also access non-residentials and look at what that what's coming in terms of the Central Coast, and we can look at the comparison between Lake Mac and Newcastle. We can look at other areas as well, depending on what the councillors would decide if you would like to see other areas as a comparison. And we can also show you the Grain Index, which to me, those figures again, the base level, the base starting date for that was Q3 2018. It's done by numbers in 100s, and you can see the numbers here as it's risen and gone up and down over.
Before you lose your voice, I'll go to Councillor McQuaid's question.
Sorry, Councillor.
Thanks, Sue. I'm a data nerd and I love this kind of stuff. Hey, this might be a dumb question, but is this only available for council employees and councillors, or is it public?
No, the intention is it'll be available to the public. So they'll be able to log onto our website and access the dashboard at any time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well done.
Just the next one is housing costs and around housing affordability. You can see what those median house prices have been. What does that look, again, the median unit prices and what the median rent is looking like. And if you hover over the graphs, it will come up with a number against that, so that you can see the total number and the date of that in terms of what date the data came in terms of what quarter. Well, and then visitation data, as I said, Tourism Research Australia has just changed the way they do that. Their data, it's not always completely comparable year on year, but we are hoping that they'll stay with this new approach in terms of reporting for us to make it a little bit easier. But again, you can see those figures, and we're just giving you a comparison of what it looks like currently. We would like, once we start to build up on this report, we'd certainly like councillors' feedback as whether or not we've missed anything or there's any other data source that you would like to see.
So this is the first cut of the prototype.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of what it will look like. We've still got significant work to do, but we wanted to bring it to you and show you where we're up to in terms of building the dashboard, and get any sort of input or to anything you'd like to see added, or areas that you'd like us to hone in.
We just share the links with you so that you could have a little bit of give us feedback. If you could just minimise the screen again, just.
Before you go off the visitor economy, what about the occupancy rates? If you were to select, I don't know, 20 accommodation places and you were to get the information in about, okay, 100%, how are we progressing across the top 20 hotels?
External data scientists to see what we can actually source. Right at the moment, he's doing some investigation for me about what we can actually get access to. So
we'll certainly take that on board. And if we can source the data, we will. And we'll bring it back with the next prototype.
If you look at the top corner there, you can see a download button, very top there. You can download the report in the PDF version or a PowerPoint presentation, and you can use it and share it with anyone that you want to.
So it means that anybody who wanted to use the data or information for their own purposes or presentations, etc., it's free, it's available to them.
Our plan, and this goes back to a question that was raised with us earlier, and when the committee first formed about what do we do with the data. Our plan is to work with other units across council, give them education around the information, where it comes from, how you might want to use that information, and they can use it for their own projects. And we'll do some education and training with everyone on that. I just want to take you to the next one. I've got one to show you. Excuse my voice. I'm really sorry. Came up today, naturally. Let's just go back to the PowerPoint. The next slide I want to show you is what does our dashboard currently look like on the website? And it looks like
It's busy and it's unmanageable.
Yeah. The one we just previously showed you is your insights report, and that's the one that's primarily just based on those data sources. The other, what we'd like to look at is how do we build on this to actually align back to the strategy and some of the outcomes that we want to measure against. This particular database has only been up for 12 months, really. It sort of got loaded on the website back in 24, 25 at the end of the financial year, and it has had 12 months on our website. Interestingly, there's been about 405 reviews over 2021, 25, 26. Wasn't easily able to be found. It was buried in a number of pages on the website, but we've worked with our the digital team, and they're going to help us do some promotion about how people can access and find it. We have an engagement rate though currently with this particular database, an online dashboard, sorry, of about 64%. So it's not bad. People are using this data, which is currently accessible for everybody. Visitors spend about 3 minutes on the page per session, and we've had about 229 unique users. So that's without promotion. So I can imagine once we start to share this more broadly with businesses and those looking to invest in the Central Coast, we can start to show up a little bit more information that people can easily find and utilise and use. Not many councils provide this level of access to this information, and it's been very well received from our business partners and those businesses that actually currently do use it. But it's clunky. So what we would like to do, if you just go to the next slide, what we would like to do is have a dashboard that is broken into on a page on the website. We'd have some introductory information, and it would be broken into 3 different dashboards. One would be economy, one would be place, and the other one would be people. Within that, it would have a view like this. This is just a prototype as an example. So if you're looking at economy, what we're doing here is looking at the industry profile. It is giving you information as a quick stat on the left-hand side, which was available on the other dashboard, but very hard to find.
And very complicated.
Very clunky. So the idea is the layout would look a lot cleaner. You would then click to office vacancy, gross regional product and CPI, sales and exports in terms of by industry, because we can access this information. We can access visitors, short-term rental and spend, and we can access nighttime economy because we have access to those databases. Some of them are open source, other ones we pay for. Under place, we would have affordability. We saw in the previous report, we could have dwellings and households. We could look at other factors that you might be interested in having, reporting on. I just need to see if I can source that data. If you councillors have got some ideas or suggestions. And under people, we would have population, unemployment and employment, very similar to what was in the statistic in the information in the
So it's the aim is to make it a much more user-friendly, easily, self-guided dashboard, so that it doesn't rely on council officers. Public businesses, anybody can actually log on and source the combination of data that they're looking for their specific needs.
Again, people would be able to access that and download the information if they wanted to do that. We have based it very similar to Hobart. Hobart City Council have done quite a bit of work around this themselves. They're just more broad, some of their comparisons, they're looking at different states, and as opposed to perhaps looking at different regions. If you've got some thoughts and some ideas around some of those regions that you would like to see some comparisons on, if we can source that data, we will be able to include that in.
So we'll keep building on it and we'll keep adding to it and we'll bring the prototype back as we start to build the data behind it and the background information and the usability into it. But we just wanted to bring you an early summary of where we're up to and what it's starting to look like. Any thoughts and ideas of information that you think would be valuable to be added into those, we're happy to take them on board as we build it, because now's the time to build it in. Most of the information we have listed in the dashboard is aligned back to the strategy and the things we're seeking to achieve change over the 4 years of the strategy. We will create baseline data and then we will do annual reporting back to the committee as well. So this dashboard not only will give businesses and the community access to general data across the region, it will also be a live indicator of our performance against the 3 adopted strategies. So it will tell us what we've committed to in our 1 year plan. So each year when you guys adopt the 1 year plan, delivery plan for the economic development strategy, it will show the performance against the strategy.
Will you, Chair?
Councillor Castles?
Just a suggestion. I note that this is actually called Central Coast Council State of the City dashboard. I would be suggesting perhaps having a think about calling it the state of something else, because we are not the city of the Central Coast. I can tell you now, people pick up on that straight away.
As I said, this is a prototype.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of saying it now.
Right. No, maybe I call their state of the city, and we just looked at their layout. We've made lots of different changes and suggestions, but we would be absolutely looking at the name. We wouldn't be calling it state of the city.
No, I'm just thinking, you know, because sometimes if you don't pick up on things earlier, suddenly they're there and you're going on now.
That's right. It'd be something like Central Coast Regional.
Whatever.
Yeah, state of the region.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can get too bogged down in the words. I think we just need to be careful if we call it something like Central Coast State of the region.
A lot of people out there are quite concrete in their thinking and quite literal, and they'll.
Yeah, but we can spin our toes in the mud over words.
Yes, forget about it.
We just need to.
Oh, that's fine. I like council.
So you're expecting
suggestion.
Yeah, based on the traffic that the current one approach has. Yeah. So you're expecting
quite a big uplift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will be doing very significant promotion once the dashboard is finalised and it's been agreed to and put off. Then we'll do a whole campaign of promotion around it. Yeah.
And you'll be bringing all of the economic information onto one page on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
On the website. Everywhere at the moment.
Yeah.
So can I ask, and
Before you go, I've got one question. So the gross regional product, that's the headline number that we talk about most times, $20 billion, etc. How often does that number get picked up? Is that just once a year that we get the number?
Yeah, so the current one is a year ending to June 2020. So I haven't got the updated data yet, but that's what you would get it on an annual basis.
Councillor Smith?
And apologies, I had to step out, so I'm sure you've already said this, but where do we pull the data from?
Oh, so there's quite a number of sources with multiple. So ABS is the most reliable data for some of the more social information that we're seeking, but we look through whatever is an open source data that we can access. Could come from government, could come from industries.
Yeah.
We also pay for some.
Okay.
So particularly spend data, CommBank IQ is where we get our spend data, and it tells us who's spending money in what locations and how much they're spending and whether that's trending up or down. And then
so is there a reference page to all of this and a click-through page if anybody wanted to?
Yeah. And there'll be instructions and there'll be guides and it'll be self-directed.
Yeah, thank you.
Information icons. When you click on that, it'll get some.
Councillor Neal?
Just to say, it's great to see the development of this dashboard. It's really very useful information, not only for ourselves for decision making, but also for the community at large, and the indication of how many people have accessed the first version. is very satisfying. I would like to spend some more time going through it and provide suggestions. Who should we send those to?
If you can send them to me directly, that would be great.
Okay. And how long a time period do you expect the development of this dashboard will take roughly?
I would suggest that the next iteration, we could probably bring back, I would say around October. Would be the next iteration, and we will hope to have it finalised by the end of this calendar year, ready for launching early next year.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Any other questions? No, thank you, Sue. Give your voice out.
That's my cracky voice.
Okay, let's move on to 2.4, hosting the LG NSW Destination and Visitor Economy Conference in 2028.
So I'll take the report as read. So we put forward an expression of interest to the Local Government New South Wales to host the 2028 Destination and Visitor Economy Conference. So Council previously hosted the conference in 2018 and has proposed to host the 2028 event at Nave at VOCO in Gosford within the Archibald precinct. Hosting the conference would provide an opportunity to showcase the significant growth of the Central Coast visitor economy, the region's eco destination certification, new tourism infrastructure and council's event delivery capability. The conference attracts local government, tourism and economic development professionals from across New South Wales and is expected to host up to 250 delegates over 2.5 days. So the proposal of the preliminary costs are estimated at $41,500. So that comprises of just over $29,000 in cash costs, and just over $12,000 in internal staffing costs, so in-kind costs. And they were based on the 2019 hosting budget adjusted with CPI and projected inflation. The costs would be incurred in the 2027-2028 financial year should council be selected to host, and we would be looking to offset some of those costs through sponsorship and a whole raft of things. So those costs are likely to significantly reduce.
I've got a question first. I like the terms here, investment from partners. They're talking about they're in a chamber and the former Tourism Central Coast Fund that's
Correct.
somewhere.
Yep, tourism levy.
Just a bit more about investment from partners, because I would have thought if it's going to be, whether it's Crown or VOCO, that they would get involved as well.
Absolutely. We would be looking to a whole range of, so you're right, we would be looking to VOCO to significantly contribute. You'd be looking at Business New South Wales. We'd be looking at a whole range of parts to contribute to the costs of the.
I'm happy to jump in on this one as well.
Yes.
And through the chair, we also are required under this conference to deliver, field visits. We call them field visits, or trips where they can start to explore some of the products and services that are available on the Central Coast. Our partners usually pay, they contribute as well to that. So, like the Reptile Park will contribute some money if you take them up to the. So, in the report, there's an attached EOI that talks about some of those opportunities. Those business partners would be contributing their investment to assist with those field trips.
Councillor Walsh.
Sorry, thank you. The Maitland, when the Maitland one has been on, or it was on, and move from here. Yeah. How was that?
I've spoken to Councillor Aspers earlier. The conference was good. I think the challenge was that it was just in the Maitland Town Hall. I think they were restricted in terms of having other locations that they could host with different conference rooms or breakout rooms. And it was a lovely conference. Great. They did a great job, but it lacked the opportunity to have perhaps more of that one-to-one engagement and share ideas and have opportunities to have good conversations. When we did it in 2019, we found that that was the greatest feedback that we had from the conference, that the ability for practitioners and people in tourism to learn from each other and build on their learnings as well as contribute to some of the future planning for tourism and supporting tourism.
Councillor McQuaid.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think just to add further to your question, and just from my own understanding, so VOCO is the main host, I guess, and Crown at Terrigal secondary option. Would they work together collaboratively, as dual hosts or just one?
The decision around which location we proposed VOCO because we held it previously at Crown in 2014. It would be up to the local government, New South Wales, to choose their preferred option. We've given them a number of options to choose from. Our preference was for Gosford because we were working with Gosford RSL, Eddowgower Gardens, other locations in terms of having some opportunity for those businesses.
Close proximity.
Close proximity. We've always got to look at the travel. One thing we hear from conference organisers is that we need to keep fairly close so it's easy for it to attend.
And just to showcase the Forgotten South too, forgot to mention that point.
Councillor Smith.
Can I just ask about the tourism levy? Is it one levy or is it a number of tourism levies that we have in place? And I've lost track a little bit of this. I have previously asked about the Terrigal tourism levy. Does that still exist?
I don't know the answer to that.
We'd have to take that one on notice.
Because I guess my feeling would be if those businesses are paying a levy for tourism, they might want to see go towards an activity in their area, whether it's a tour or whether it's something else. And I am interested. I mean, I might just ask it here about that Terrigal tourism levy. I did notice in our operating plan, I couldn't see it mentioned there, and I didn't realise that it disappeared. Well, I didn't know it had an end date on it.
My understanding was that it had finished because it did happen, but I need to get.
Can you find out about that, please? What the other tourism levies are?
Yeah, we can do that.
Any other questions? And online. So we've got a recommendation there. Anybody who move the recommendation?
Do I need to include that?
I don't think so. The group staff have got that. Moved Councillor McQuaid, seconded Councillor Neal. Any other discussion?
Just that this is a recommendation to council.
Correct, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay. End of the meeting. I note that the next meeting is to be held at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 1st of September 2026 at the Wyong Administration Building. I think we've got TAFE coming, question mark, and an update on the action plans. I think you were going to give an update on the action plans in September.
Who was going to shout TAFE?
When we're at the Industry Connect location. Councillor Neal, we'll talk about that later at the September meeting. I need to declare the meeting closed at 6:21 p.m. Thank you.
Not too bad.